Okay, friends. So, welcome to the online session on the human respiratory system. So, for CBSE, it is breathing and exchange of gases. And for state, chapter number 8, that is respiration, part 1. So, we have divided this chapter into two sessions. In first session, we will discuss about the human respiratory system and how it will works. Then exchange of gases. So what we are going to discuss? So we are going to discuss a respiratory organs. What are the respiratory organs in different organisms? Then a mechanism of breathing. So that we are going to discuss mechanism of breathing. And also we are going to discuss how exchange of gases takes place, then how gases are transported within the body. Then regulation of respiration, and finally, some common disorders of respiratory system. So we discuss all this point one by one. Now, if you see this a figure, so here we have a alveoli. So this is a alveoli. So in the alveoli, so the air will come from a outside, that is from the atmosphere. So from alveoli, so basically all gases will enter, but oxygen will get exchange between the alveoli and our circulatory system, blood. And from blood, it will go into the body tissues. In the same way, in a body tissues, after using the oxygen in cellular respiration, so carbon dioxide is inert, and that will exchange between tissue and blood. And from blood, it will exchange into the alveoli, and from alveoli, again, it will go into the surrounding atmosphere. So this is how our respiratory work in our body. Now, what is a respiration? So it is a biochemical process by which the organic compounds like glucose or other carbohydrates are oxidized to liberate a energy, that is in the form of ATP, chemical energy, from what the food we have taken. So this respiration may take place in presence of oxygen. So that is called as aerobic respiration, or it will take place in absence of oxygen. So when presence of oxygen, so more energy will be used. And in anaerobic respiration, so without use of oxygen, it will produce less energy. But in both, oxidation takes place. Best examples of anaerobes, anaerobic bacteria, yeast, or in multicellular like Taenia, fasciculi, or even Ascaris. So this is already we have discussed in a cellular respiration. Now, so here breathing, that is external respiration. The muscular movement that sends a fresh air to the respiratory organ, that is inspiration, and removes the foul air, that is bad air, from them. So that is called expiration. So then exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with carbon dioxide, which is produced by the every breathing cell or oxidizing cell. So inspiration, generally it is an active process, but expiration, it is entirely a passive process. Okay. So how that we'll see in the next. Now, if you see the difference between exactly what is breathing and respiration. So breathing is a physical process. Breathing is a physical process. But respiration is a biochemical process. It involves enzymes. It takes place in only reptiles, birds, and mammals, where there is a well-developed respiratory organs. It is occur in all living organisms. It is a rhythmic process. It is a continuous process. It is extracellular, outside the cell. It is within the cell, intracellular. Here it will involve only exchange of gases between the animal and its external environment. But here involves the enzymatic breakdown of glucose in the presence or absence of oxygen, but to release a energy. So these are a common difference between breathing and respiration. To become a respiratory organ, a surface, what are the important characters? Number one, so the organ or a surface where the exchange of a gases takes place. Common features are, number one, it should be thin and large and moist. The surface should be very thin, the surface should be very large, and it should be a moist. So our lungs have approximately 80 meters square area, surface area. Second, the membrane should be permeable to all gases, carbon dioxide and water. It is highly vascular and rich with a blood supply. So that surface organ should be directly contact or indirectly contact with the surrounding environment where the oxygen is present, maybe water or maybe air. So if these characters are there, then only it will work as a respiratory organ. Now, some common respiratory organs, the animals like protozoans, that is amoeba, paramecium, the surface itself will work as a respiratory surface and through which a diffusion of gases takes place. Okay, the simple diffusion of gases takes place through this surface due to change in the concentration. Okay, through plasma membrane. Then sponges, example cyclone. So plasma membrane of each cell, because it is a multicellular organism. Then cnidarians like Hydra or Chitinophora, the body surface. Okay, body surface. In Platyhelminthes, including Planaria, body surface, but most of them are anaerobic respiration. Then Annelidas, that is body wall, yeah, earthworm. If you take a skin is the respiratory organ. Arthropoda, gills are found in prow. Tracheal system is found in insects. Book lungs are found in scorpion or spider. And book gills are found in king crab. So this is the phylum where you will get the varieties of respiratory organ. So again, from your textbook, you can take some of the examples. For example, arthropoda, that is limulus, aquatic, that is book lungs. Okay, turtles underwater, that is cloaca. Or reptiles, birds and mammals, terrestrial, all they are lungs. Okay, and fish, that is egg gills or internal gills. One. Now, we continue that mollusca, that is two cnitidia, yeah, gills are there. Echinodermata, that is starfish, 2 feet, yeah, dermal branchia. Hemichordata, pharyngeal wall. Pisces, no doubt gills. Amphibia, in young stage, that is tadpole gills or lungs and moist skin. So amphibia. Reptile, birds and mammals, all they have a well-developed respiratory organs, that is lungs. So these are certain figures which will show the respiratory system with these diagrams. You can see that a colored pictures lungs. Here we will get a tracheal system. Here we will get a gills. So this is the real tracheal system of a cockroach, that white one. And you can see in the cockroach, the tracheal system, trachea, then tracheoles, then tissues directly contact here. So this is the earthworm where the skin will act as a respiratory organ. Now, so based on that, let's have one concept test. Respiration in insect is called direct. Why? So just pause the video, write the choice, and then you check. So the correct answer is here, that is D. Tracheal tubes exchange oxygen, CO2 directly with the hemocoil, which then exchange with the tissues. That is tracheal system. Well, now this is a human respiratory system. You can see the exact location of your respiratory organ, that is lungs. Then there are bronchioles, yeah, bronchus, connected to the trachea here. Then here is a larynx, then glottis and epiglottis. This is the pharynx, that is a common passage for nasal and mouth. And here you can see the same diagram. So our lungs are protected inside the thoracic cavity. So these are a ribs, and here you can see a muscular wall, that is diaphragm. So you can draw this diagram from your textbook practice. See, this is a nostril, two nostrils are there. This is the nasal cavity where the cilia, mucus and hairs are present that will filter out. And from mouth here it will open. So this common passage is called a pharynx. Then here it is a larynx, that is sound box. So here there is a glottis, which that is covered by epiglottis, a leaf-like structure. Then it will opens into trachea, a windpipe. Trachea further divided into right and left bronchi, a bronchus. And there is a left lung and right lung. So this is right lung, this is a left lung. So inside the lung, it is further divided into primary, secondary, tertiary bronchioles. And every bronchiole ends with a balloon-like structure called alveoli. And here you can see a center, a sternum, and these are ribs. So there are 12 pairs of ribs. And here below, a thick muscular wall called a diaphragm. Or even you can see cut end of the ribs, lungs, see here bronchioles. Then it is covered with a double membrane, that is a pleural membrane. So in between a pleural membrane, there is a fluid called a pleural fluid. And here on the trachea, you can see the C-shape cartilaginous rings. This is larynx, and here you can see a epiglottis. Okay, now parts. Nostril opens into a nasal cavity through a nasal passage. Nasal cavity divided into two chambers by a septum. Again, it is made up of cartilage and differentiated into three regions. Vestibular, that bear hairs, oil glands. The main function is to trap the dust. Then respiratory, that is middle one, rich in mucus and serous cells. It is work as an air conditioner and maintain the temperature of the air, whatever may be the temperature of the surrounding air, and filtering unit. It will filter out everything, contamination present in the air. The third one is, that is olfactory. It detects the odor of air, that is smell. So this is how the nasal cavity, vestibular, respiratory and olfactory. Then nasal conchae, that is bony ridges present inside, that will increase the surface area. Okay. Then paranasal sinuses, that is contain a goblet cells, and that will secrete the mucus here. So this is a sinus. Third part is pharynx. It is divided into nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. And this is the common passage for the food from the mouth and from the nose. Larynx, that is upper part made up of cartilage and has a small slit, that is opening, called a glottis, which is covered by a leaf-like flap, that is called epiglottis. So it will open and close the entry of trachea. So larynx contains the vocal cords. So there are two pair, upper falsi, lower true. And usually they are thick in men. So therefore they have low pitch voice. In female, high pitch voice. Then larynx continue as a trachea, a windpipe. It may be around a 12 centimeter long, a straight tube, extended up to the middle of your thoracic cavity. Then which is further divided into right and left primary bronchi. At the level of, that is fifth thoracic vertebrae. So there are vertebrae from the backside. So up to the fifth level, so it will enter, that is trachea. Lungs. So two lungs which are covered by a double layer called as a pleura. So outer parietal and inner a visceral. And in between that, there is a pleural fluid. Pleural fluid is there. So left lung generally has a two lobes. So left lung has a two lobes, superior and inferior. Superior and inferior. Then right lung has a three lobes, and it is larger than the left lung. Then diaphragm. So it is a muscular self at the base of a lungs. Generally it is dome shape. It will separate the chest cavity, a thoracic cavity, from the abdominal cavity. abdominal cavity. So these are the main parts of our human respiratory system. Now you can see, so 1, 2, 3, 3 lobes, and here you can see a 1 and 2 lobes. Okay, so this is a trachea. See that cartilaginous ring, bronchi, primary bronchi. Then these are bronchioles. See that, and it is ends with a alveoli. Okay, here it is shown clearly how it will ends with alveoli, which are air sacs, just like a bunch of grapes. You can see here alveolar sac, alveolus, atrium, alveolar duct, the respiratory bronchiole. This is terminal bronchi. This is lobular, then bronchus, yeah, bronchial, whatever it is. Okay. Now, so bronchi, repeated divisions to form a secondary, tertiary bronchi and bronchioles, ending up in a very thin terminal bronchioles. So there is a C-shaped cartilaginous ring where trachea, primary, secondary, and even tertiary bronchi. And it will prevent, the main role is it will prevent from the collapsing when there is no air inside the trachea. So that is the main role. Each terminal bronchiole has a number of very thin, irregular walled and vascularized bags. So these bags we call as alveoli or air sacs. So there are around 300 million air sacs. So there are around 300 million air sacs present in our lungs. See, then find out the surface area. So there is a lecithin which is secreted by the gained alveolar walls. So they will secrete one kind of chemical. Here you can see the more detail about that larynx, trachea, cartilaginous ring, then pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery. These are bronchus. Yeah, see how it is further divided. Secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. Okay, then here you can see the arterial or branch of pulmonary artery, alveolar duct, air sac, again our infundibulum, then alveoli, yeah, alveoli in a section, and they are very rich with the capillary network. Okay, this is how alveoli looks like. So the air sacs of the bronchi allow air to come into close contact with the blood capillaries, so that gas exchange can easily takes place. You can see here red color, they bring oxygenated blood, and here blue, that is carry deoxygenated blood. So when the blood will come here, here the exchange will take place in this alveoli. So lungs are situated in your thoracic chamber, which is anatomically a very airtight chamber. Now what the parts which are present? The thoracic chamber is formed of these four parts. From the dorsal side and a back side, vertebral column is there. And from ventrally, in the center, there is a sternum. And laterally, there are ribs. As I told you, there are 12 pairs of ribs and one sternum, 25 rib gauge. And on the lower side, there is a dome-shaped diaphragm. So therefore, it will make the air tight and it will only open through this trachea outside. That is the only one opening. So during respiration, these following steps are in order. First, breathing, yeah, pulmonary ventilation. We use the word in our house, ventilation, windows. So the atmospheric air is taken in and the carbon dioxide rich alveolar air is released out. So that is called a breathing. Then after breathing, diffusion of gases. So diffusion of gases takes place at the two sides across the alveolar membrane, that is alveoli and the blood, and then from blood to tissues. How? We will see that. Then transport of respiratory gases by the blood from alveoli to different parts of the body. Then diffusion of oxygen and CO2 between blood and tissues. So there is 2 times diffusion takes place. And finally, utilization of this oxygen by each cell for catabolic reactions, a resultant release of energy along with as a waste material, carbon dioxide. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps will take place during our respiration. Now, just to watch this video, see how that air is enter inside, that is inhalation, and how the air is coming outside, that is exhalation. Now you can see this is the trachea, this is the larynx. Now you can see the cartilaginous ring here. So this is further divided into bronchiole. Okay, now inside the lungs you can see. Now if you see that very clearly, so inside the, this is a bronchi, this it is divided into further, and here the air will enter. And these are a bronchiolus. So each bronchiolus ends with, see, this is the alveoli. And here the blood is carrying a oxygen. Now you can see that how oxygen and CO2 getting exchanged, and the CO2 is entering back to that duct and it is coming into the trachea. And from trachea, it will go outside the body through the nostril. So that what we call exhalation. So this is exhalation. Okay. So during here, how that exchange of gases takes place. Now you can see this blue color and red color. See, this is a alveolar surface. Okay. Now here, see oxygen and carbon dioxide. So the blood will carry the oxygen and also it will carry the CO2. And here the surface exchange will take place between this respiratory surface. That is alveolar. It is called respiratory membrane also. Then after that, it will go outside the body. So this is the entire human respiratory system. Okay, see that how you breathe. Now, what is the time of breathing per minute in children, in adults? So that we'll discuss one by one. Okay, I think it is helpful you to understand the human respiratory system. Now, mechanism of breathing. Inspiration, that is intake of atmospheric air into the lungs. It occurs if the pressure within the lungs, that is intrapulmonary pressure, is lower than the atmospheric pressure, because we know that the air will enter from high pressure to low pressure. So we cannot change the pressure in our surrounding environment. So therefore, we have to change the pressure within our thoracic cavity. And this is what you call intrapulmonary pressure. It should be lower to get air from outside. So this will take place due to the contraction of diaphragm. So diaphragm will contract. So when the diaphragm will contract, it will increase the volume of thoracic chamber in the anterior posterior axis. Anterior posterior axis. So the volume increases and the pressure decreases. See here. So this is a diaphragm. When this diaphragm will contract, so what will happen? Here, the pressure inside the lungs, the thoracic cavity decreases in both right lung and left lung. In the same time, so there is an elevation of ribs also. The elevation of ribs also. You can see here the position of diaphragm. So during inspiration, this will come down, and during expiration, it will go outside. Even you can see the position of ribs also. Position of ribs also. So these are the other muscles which are in. So these are the muscles involved in breathing. Now these are external intercostal muscles, and there are certain internal intercostal muscles, the muscles which are present between the ribs, externally and internally. And here the muscles of a diaphragm, and there are also external oblique muscles. So all these muscles will play a very important role. Now, if you compare these two diagrams, so this is during inspiration. So you can see diaphragm is contracted and ribs and sternums are raised. So inside the volume of thoracic cavity increases, pressure decreases. So the air will enter from high pressure to low pressure. So during expiration, see here, the diaphragm muscles will get relaxed and it will go to the original position, arched upward. In the same way, the intercostal muscles also relax. So ribs and sternum return to the original position. So due to that, the volume of thoracic cavity decreases and the pressure increases. So the air will expel from inside the lungs to outside. So these two diagrams give you clear idea how the pulmonary, intrapulmonary volume and pressure varies. So the contraction of external intercostal muscles lift up the ribs, and the sternum cause increase in the volume of thoracic chamber in the dorsoventral. See, anterior, posterior, then dorsal ventral. It decreases the intrapulmonary pressure to less than the atmospheric pressure. So it forces the air from outside to inside the lungs. So there should be this situation, that is pulmonary P alveoli is less than pulmonary, that is pressure in the atmosphere. So pressure in the alveoli is less than pressure in the atmosphere. Then only the air will enter. And this is due to external intercostal muscles and diaphragm muscles. Okay. Now come to the expiration. It is relaxation of a diaphragm and intercostal muscles, that is external. Diaphragm and sternum return to the normal position and decrease the thoracic and pulmonary volume. So it increases the intrapulmonary pressure slightly above the atmospheric pressure because the volume will decreases. It causes the expulsion of air from the lungs, and it is entirely a passive process because they after some time they will go relaxation. So here the pressure in alveoli should be more than pressure in the atmosphere. Then the expiration will take place. Okay, so the healthy man breathe 12 to 16 times per minute. That is normal breathing rate. A newborn child, it may be higher, that is around 32 per minute. Okay, so this is the flow diagram. Inspiration, here you can see, and this is expiration. So just you can pause the video and note down how the sequential takes place. Okay. Now, just to see that one. Here, this is the real human expiratory system. See, these are our lungs. See, this is the diaphragm. So this is the model. See, now this is inside. And this is the real picture. So this is how the mechanism of breathing takes place. So again, generally thoracic breathing in males 25%, pregnant female, the entire body she will use, and abnormal breathing is in males around 75%. Okay. Now, so this is a graph showing the normal rate breathing. If you take that is from 0 to a 6,000 ml, the 6 liter. So see the normal breathing rate, that is 2,500 to 3,000, and hardly will take 500 ml in and out air. And here this much of amount of air is always in our lungs, around 1,500 ml. It will remain in your body. So during exercise, the normal breathing increases and it may go around, that is here, from here, it will up to go any around 1,000 to 1,500 ml. And due to forceful expiration, See, you can expel this much out. Okay, blow out. So this can be measured with the help of an instrument called as spirometer or respirometer. So what are your respiratory volumes? The volume of air inhaled in breathing. So it is estimated by using an instrument spirometer or respirometer. So first one is tidal volume or TV. The volume of air inspired or expired during the normal breathing. For example, now you are sitting and I am doing the normal breathing. So during this breath, I am taking only 500 ml of air in and I am giving out a 500 ml of air out. So exactly in the alveoli, so there will be 350 ml in the alveoli and 150 ml in the dead space. That is, it will remain here and there. Inspiratory reserve value, IRV, that is additional volume of air a person inspired by forceful inspiration. Now you can do like this. So this much. So it is about a 2.5 liter to 3 liter, yeah, 3000 ml. So we have to do pranayam therefore every day to get extra air. Then expiratory reserve value, ERV, that is additional volume of air a person can expire, that is like this, remove. So it is about 1000 to 1200. Okay. Then even though after doing the forceful expiration, so the volume of air remain in the lungs, even after forceful expiration, it is about 1200 ml. So that is called residual value. And this is very, very important for the easy exchange of gases. So these are the 4 respiratory volumes. There are other 4 respiratory capacities are there. Now one is inspiratory capacity, that is tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume together called inspiratory capacity. 500, if you take the highest value 3000, it will become 3500. Similarly, expiratory capacity, tidal volume plus expiratory reserve value. So it will go around 1600 ml. Then functional residual capacity, that is FRC, ERV plus RV, that is 1100, 1200, it is equivalent to 2.3 liter. Then vital capacity, we see IRV, TV, ERV. If you add, so it will go around 4.5 liter. And the total lung capacity, TLC, all the volumes you join together, RV, IRV, TV, ERV, it will come around 5700 ml and a 5.7 liter. That much of air is there in your lungs. But out of that, we are just normally exchanging only 500 ml. Well, so based on this, now we have one small concept test. Make the correct pair of muscles involved in the normal breathing in the humans. Now pause the video, write the choice, and then check. Yes. So the correct answer is D, diaphragm and the internal intercostal muscles. Second, a person suffers punctures in his chest cavity in an accident without any damage to the lungs. Its effect could be, again pause the video, write the answer, check. So the correct answer is, that is cessation of breathing. So breathing will be stopped, cessation. Well, so this is about the respiratory organ, respiratory system, mechanism of breathing, and the respiratory volumes and capacities. So with the remaining concepts, we will meet in a next session. So thank you for watching this. Don't forget to subscribe my channel to watch and more videos. And don't forget to give the like buttons. Thank you. Have a nice day.